What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be talking about my 10 favorite USA knife makers slash knife manufacturers. Now, keep in mind, we are not going to be talking about companies like Spyderco, Benchmade, ZT. I love stuff like that, but what I'm going to be talking about today is the true upper tier. These are knives that are much more expensive, much more work goes into them. The demand is much higher, so they're going to be much harder to get a hold of. In fact, everything on this list is going to be super hard to get a hold of. Why? Because they're extremely popular, because the quality is real. So keep that in mind moving forward. This is just for information purposes. It is not a, hey, you can shop for these right now kind of thing. Also, these are in no particular order. Just listing them. I'm going to show a knife that is my personal favorite from each maker slash manufacturer, but keep in mind the quality extends to essentially everything that they make. I will go ahead and link everything that I can right down below so that you guys can check listings or just be prepared if you're wanting to get your hands on some of this stuff in the future. But some of it I won't be able to link because it's legitimately insanely difficult to get your hands on. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you feel like I left a certain maker off the list, let me know down in the comments section. Most of the time it's because I've handled it and it's not really for me, or it's not something I've experienced yet. But everything that I'm going to talk about today is stuff that I have experienced and reviewed on this channel. So starting off here with the first one, let's talk about TRM or Three Rivers Manufacturing. Truthfully, the Neutron and the Atom were models that they didn't speak to me too much, but the manufacturing quality was definitely there. The model that spoke to me the most was the Shadow. Wow. Oh man. These are some of the least expensive knives on this list, but they operate, like basically the execution of these knives is way up there, way higher than what you'd normally expect from this general zone. I love the ergonomic lines of the Shadow. I love the look of it, the operation. It's all excellent. TRM, fantastic knife manufacturers. Let's move on here to a one that's really difficult to get your hands on. That's going to be Holt. I'm always going to love the Spectre V4 the most. That's the one that spoke to me the most. These are substantially more expensive. I want to say they come in base price around $600, $700, $800, something like that. I still don't own one of my own, but I hope to at some point. The liner lock versions of these are my favorite. I think these are some of the most stylish knives in the world, and they absolutely have that execution down perfectly. We're talking about perfect detents, perfect balance, perfect action, all of that. These are all elements that are present in sort of like it's like a fraction of these elements are present in knives that you can get at $100, $200, $300, but until you handle stuff like this, it sounds like a snobby thing to say. Like, some of those other knives are great and they're perfectly acceptable in a utilitarian, if you're just going out and using them, right? But you handle these things side by side, like the Holt, for example, and you go, holy moly, there really is a huge difference between this stuff, right? So Holt, specifically the Spectre, wow, quality is on point. Moving on here, can't leave out Konig. Wow, arguably, one of, if not the most popular, I think this might be the most popular knife on this list, the Konig Arius. Yeah, definitely. These are incredible, and as far as, the quality to cost ratio, I know he's bumped his prices here lately, and they make some other models that are cool. I think they make, this is like is it the Goblin? I can't remember. But the Arius, wonderful. I like the full titanium versions the best. The newest variants I have not handled yet, but they look amazing. The milling patterns are amazing. A lot of this stuff is not just action or finish work. It's the detail, the texturing that is involved with, the frame, or just the detail work in general on the blade, the milling work, right? These are phenomenal, phenomenal masterpieces. Even the hardware, the detail on the hardware is just incredible. Big fan of Konig knives. Moving on here, this is a newer one for me, but one that it's so good that I recently put in an order, and that's going to be Brown knives. Wow, the knives that I handled on this channel, one I reviewed here recently, that's probably what you're looking at here, and that's going to be the LHC-X. I also handled the Cortex. Oh my goodness. You know, you handle things like the Konig Arius and the Holt Spectre, and you think, how can it get any better than this? And I'm not saying Brown is necessarily better, but he's right up there in the exact same ballpark. I think a lot of people might be as quick as his stuff sells, because it's no easier to get your hands on Brown stuff, right? But I feel like a lot of people overlook his stuff. This is on the same level and completely reasonable pricing. You're looking at, I think, anywhere from about $700 to $850 on a lot of his models on the base end. And he can go, just like a lot of the other makers on this list, they can go, you know, just like a regular sort of a plain approach, or you can get really crazy and they go real custom fancy with the colors and the materials and things like that. But wonderful cutting geometry. These are a bit more, his thing is, his newer model's a lot bigger, but his thing is more like compact and reasonable day to day. Wow, Brown knives, unbelievable quality, huge fan, wonderful. Moving on here, more production, right? More, you know, less hands-on than some of the previous makers that I mentioned here. That's going to be Chris Reeve. I can't leave Chris Reeve knives off the list. A lot of people are mad at me that I did not include the Sebenza 31 in my top 50 greatest folding knives of all time. I don't care. I don't like the Sebenza very much. I like the Umnumzan. Wow, the Umnumzan is awesome. Listen, the Sebenza 31 is a great knife. It really is. It's just not one of my favorite top 50 of all time, right? Still super high quality, and you should definitely seek one out if you like how they look. I'm just kind of joking around here. But the Umnumzan, that's what makes me love Chris Reeve knives. Oh man, the combination of just like a really classy looking knife, but then you also have the Umnumzan is so much different than anything else in their line. It is so aggro and tactical, but it's still, I don't know, man. It's like a Wolverine in a tuxedo. That's what it makes me think of, right? It's fancy, but it's super aggro. I love this knife. And then here recently with their upgrade to S45VN and their new wonderful shiny stonewash, or whatever they call it, it's like a glass blast. Oh my gosh, wonderful. And also one of the more reasonably priced knives on this list. Moving on here, another production, right? Production level. I mean, these makers do the custom things if you want. Les George, specifically the VECP version 3, and I've actually got one right here to share with you guys. This is a design, a model that has really not changed all that much since, I want to say, the version 1 came out around 2012 maybe. This is the version 3, and that's the version he has stuck with since, oh man, I don't know, 2016 or so. I might be wrong about that. Straightforward. They also have a flipper version of this knife. This is just titanium CTS XHP. The flipper version is titanium and 20 CV. But this is a plain version, but they do have versions with some excellent milling patterns on them. This just kind of has that straightforward American knife look. But again, the quality and finish work. This guy is actually running on phosphor bronze washers, and it is insanely smooth and just incredibly easy to operate, given that it is not running on bearings. So love the hardware choice, love just the overall finish work and quality work in general. You always get solid lockup. Everything clicks and clacks the way that you want it to. The centering, spot on. It's just, you know, more of what I love about it. It's kind of, Les George knives are kind of like Hinderer knives and Chris Reeve knives mixed together. You get kind of that aggressive, kind of tactical look mixed with Chris Reeve's more refined and kind of understated finish work, but that super high quality is absolutely there. We're also looking at essentially the same price point, about $425 to $450, but they are absolutely worth it. Moving on here, another knife that I definitely have here. So the maker we're going to be talking about is Hawk knives. Grant and Gavin Hawk. Now, a lot of people are going to say, those are custom. This list is not specific to production or semi-custom or full cut. It's not, right? These are American knife makers / manufacturers, and Grant and Gavin Hawk are definitely, absolutely making knives that are that qualify for this list. Specifically, the Model C. This OTF is absolutely ridiculous. The Deadlock Model C. This is the only, I know people always want to say, well, my Benchmade Infidel doesn't have any blade play, or my Microtech Combat Troodon doesn't have any blade play. Sorry, I don't believe you. I've handled dozens and dozens and dozens of some of the nicest OTFs in the world, and every single one of them, every single one, has at least a microscopic amount of blade play. This guy, this and the Model B are the only two I have ever handled that have zero blade play. We're looking at CPM 20CV, aluminum, carbon fiber inlays, titanium firing button, titanium inlays, and a titanium pocket clip. The quality on these things is also a step above Microtech. Finish work, seating of the hardware, everything. The grind work on the blades. The blade is truly perfect. There's not a single flaw on the blade whatsoever. Now, these are much more expensive. These guys start at, I want to say, $1,000 or $1,100, and yeah, that's a lot of money, but that's the price you're going to pay if you really want that level of perfection. Do you need that, right? Do you need to pay this much money? There's nothing on this list, nothing that you need to pay for to get a certain level of utilitarian benefit that, you know, day to day is going to serve you that much better, right? No, you can get by with a $50 pocket knife. That's not what this list is. But if you want to know what the best of the best is, in my opinion, when it comes to USA knife manufacturing, yeah, knives like the Grant and Gavin, the Hawk Model C, just absolutely incredible. There's not a single flaw on this entire knife. It's perfection. Wonderful. This is the best OTF in existence, and it's really cool that they are making these in the United States. Moving on here. I think you guys knew that this was going to be on the list, and that's going to be Rick Hinderer knives. Yeah, I would say Rick Hinderer, and this is difficult because there's a lot of people are going to say no, it's Chris Reeve, right? At the price point, right? Because his base price point, there are some models that come in a little bit less, but his base price point for a Hinderer XM18 3.5-inch standard thickness, that is his flagship model. The base price for those comes in at $425, which is probably the best overall cost to quality ratio on this list. A lot of people are going to say, no way, Chris Reeve all the way. A lot of people who say that, I would say it's probably been a while since you've handled a Hinderer, right? Now, they still look, right? This is an XM24. It's much more expensive. They still look like, you know, kind of clunky America, like sort of, I don't know, almost like World War II, something that you might peel off the side of a tank, right? World War II. So that's where people get that. They look at the, you know, kind of the understated sort of minimalist aesthetic of a Chris Reeve knife, and they say, oh, this automatically is high quality or higher quality because it looks, you know, a lot more sort of fancy or reserved. But the actual execution of the materials, right? If you get in and look at Rick Hinderer's finish work on his blades, and you look at how everything is finished on the frames, how the blades operates, right? And just the consistency in quality. Hinderer knives now are so much more consistent. They flip way better. You can change parts out without worrying, like, is this going to fit, right? And that's something that, you know, you see in Chris Reeve knives as well. I love the aesthetic. I love the function of Hinderer knives. A lot of people are going to say, well, I wouldn't put it on the list because the flipper tab is painful. There are certain design elements of every knife on this list that I, you know, prefer more or less. But when we're talking about the quality, consistency, and execution of the materials, Hinderer knives are essentially perfect and are at least tied in best, you know, quality to cost ratio on this list. At about the $425 or $450 price point with Chris Reeve knives. They are incredible. And the variety of things that you can get. It's amazing that Rick Hinderer can offer so much variety. It's unbelievable. Skinny, standard, fatty, 3-inch, 3.5-inch, XM24, the Jurassic, the Maximus, the Firetack, the Half Track, the Full Track, the Project X, the what else is out? I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff. The Eclipse, right? And then all of the interchangeable parts and the different blade shapes and the different finishes. It's just insane. And with all of that considered, he's making all of this stuff in-house and making it consistent in quality. Hinderer knives, deserving. They'll always be on that list. Moving on here, yeah, absolutely have to include Demco. Ooh, man, this is like Demco. This is a Demco 8020, probably alongside the Konig Arias, probably the most sought after knife on this list. Yes, I know what these go for on eBay. No, you cannot buy this from me. Please don't, please. I'm flattered that you guys want to, but every time I show this, I get somebody asking me, thank you for your interest. No, I won't sell it. The Demco AD20, this is a machine grounder MG8020 titanium. The base price of these in just G10 and your steel of choice, they have a bunch of different ones, comes in about $425. These guys come in at $625 and for some reason sell for way more on eBay. Yeah, this is probably the most capable as well. This is probably the strongest, right? If you were going to put all of these knives in an apocalypse scenario, which is ridiculous. But if you were going to do that, the Demco 8020 is probably the one that's going to last the longest, and it's mainly because of the shark lock. This is an incredibly strong lock. Definitely, everything on this list, all the locks will serve their purpose plenty well over the course of a lifetime. The strongest lock on the list is definitely the shark lock. Quality here is, again, it's the equivalent. The G10 one feels a little bit lacking in value versus like, you know, Chris Reeve knives at the same price point or Hinderer knives at the same price point, and it comes down to the materials used, right? Normally I don't like to zero in on that, but we're just looking at G10 and steel for the frames versus Hinderer using titanium, a combination of titanium and G10, and Chris Reeve using all titanium. The $625, if you can get your hands on it, Demco 8020 in titanium is phenomenal. Wow, ergonomic lines, wonderful. It's definitely the most fidgety knife on this list. So you get kind of that fidget factor mixed with insane high quality. Again, these are gonna be super hard to get. And the titanium one is probably one of the more, you know, kind of feeling that super duper high quality, you know, to the ratio of what you're paying for it. But again, it's always going to be perfect centering, right? The finish work on these things is also incredible. The lockout is always perfect. It's just wonderful, right? This is Demco Knives. This is a great example for people who, you know, in my personal life are like, I don't understand. Like, I can go, you know, get a Kershaw, like a USA made Kershaw at Walmart for like 80 bucks. Like, why would I pay $625 for something like the Demco or a Hinderer or whatever, you know, that's like $600, $400 to $600. And then I let them handle this and they go, oh my God, holy mo, it's the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't click until you handle it and experience it and realize there is a difference. It's not just a thing with a blade, right? Slapped together with whatever materials. It's the Demco is one of those that always drives the point home. Moving on here to the final one on the list. Yeah, that's definitely going to be Sharp by Design. Sharp by Design, Brian Nadeau. This is a full custom. Sorry, we've got some stuff on here ruining the final part of this. This is a custom arch nemesis. These are extremely expensive, arguably the hardest to get on this list. These are made, I would say fewer of these, substantially fewer of these are made than anything else on this list. And the moment, right, the moment that Brian Nadeau finishes one and puts it up for sale on Instagram, or he does like an auction or whatever, it's gone. Pretty much the moment that he finishes making an arch nemesis, it is gone. I want to say these start at $1,600, but the overall quality, right? The overall quality on this thing is higher than anything else that I have ever handled. I've handled knives that cost twice as much as this. I've actually handled knives that cost 3 times as much as this, but I can honestly say I have never handled anything that is as high quality as a Sharp by Design. And it's not the first Sharp by Design I've handled. This is now the second arch nemesis, probably the 5th or 6th Brian Nadeau Sharp by Design custom that I've ever handled. These are insane. The level of detail on these knives is completely and totally unmatched. Sense of symmetry and ability to execute that symmetry on something like a compound ground double-edged dagger with a fuller down the middle. This is unbelievable. The ability of Brian Nadeau to execute this is absolutely insane. It is ridiculous. Right? His pocket clips are incredible. And this is just the arch nemesis. He has another knife that I really like and hope to get my hands on one day is the full-size Tempest. And he's made, you know, his his custom Typhoons, that line. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but I've never handled anything from Brian Nadeau that was anything short of perfect. It's just insane. Now, it's one of those things where, you know, most people are not going to graduate into a, you know, zone where they're going to feel compelled to spend well over $1,000 on a knife, right? But for those of you who do make it up there, you want to know from somebody like me, hey, Metal Complex is somebody who has handled lots of knives that are $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 even. If I'm going to spend over $1,000 on a knife, what's going to make me happy? Sharp by Design knives. That's where it's, seriously, that's where, ask anybody, right? Don't ask people who don't know. Don't look down in the comment section of people in the peanut gallery going, well, I think it just, based on my limited experience looking through a rectangular window, right? Don't ask people like that. Ask people on Instagram who own them, right? That's who you want to ask, because likely those people have handled many other things in that same tier. Ask them, right? How do you feel about Sharp by Design knives? I don't think you'll find a single person out there who won't say exactly the same thing as me. And if you're somebody who owns something from Sharp by Design, or anything in this list, right? Let people know how you feel down in the comment section, right? Because this is this whole territory of, you know, expensive, truly USA-made custom knives, or, you know, high-end production or mid-tech or whatever. This is intimidating territory for a lot of people, right? Wanting to support American companies, but realizing that that's going to come with a high cost and an investment of time, right? Yeah, it's kind of a scary zone. Ask people who have actually handled this stuff. Don't ask somebody who's, you know, buying a Gerber once a month from Walmart, because that guy's not going to know, right? The Sharp by Design knives, if you want that level of perfection and execution with the materials, right? These have their own lipped detent system, which is a special thing with Sharp by Design. It's not something you get anywhere else. If you want this level of insanity, of perfection in your knives, then Sharp by Design, that's the way to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is the type of video that will be updated, you know, probably once a year or so as I experience new things. That's going to be pretty much it today. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex. They'll go right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.